For decades, marketers have been chasing a ghost, the ultra-loyal customer. I mean, they've built entire strategies, multi-billion-dollar loyalty programs, all around finding and keeping these people. But today, we're going to dive into the hard evidence from Byron Sharp's incredible book, How Brands Grow, and show you why that entire approach, well, it might just be built on a myth.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at a classic marketing problem that is absolutely not what it seems. Then, we'll uncover a scientific law that flips everything you thought you knew on its head. We'll find out where growth really comes from. We're going to debunk one of marketing's most famous quotes. And then finally, we'll piece it all together into a new evidence-based framework for how you can actually grow a brand.
All right, to see just how easy it is for marketers to get led astray by focusing on loyalty, let's start with a classic tale of toothpastes. It's a scenario you've probably seen 100 times, just with different brand names.
So picture this. You're in charge of insights over at Colgate. The latest report hits your desk. Your boss is knocking at your door, and they are worried. And honestly, the numbers seem to paint a very clear and, yeah, a very worrying picture. Okay, first, the hard truth. In the US market, Crest is just plain twice the size of Colgate. This isn't exactly breaking news, but it's the foundation of the problem. But it's what you see next that really starts the panic. And here is where the story gets really interesting. When you break down the sales for each brand, it looks like Crest's volume is coming overwhelmingly from loyal customers. You know, people who buy the brand again and again. Colgate, on the other hand, seems to rely way more on switchers, shoppers who just kind of hop between different brands. I mean, looking at this, the conclusion seems obvious, right?
So your marketing agency takes this data and cooks up a set of classic recommendations. We got to focus on loyalty. We need to target heavy buyers. We've got to run more persuasive ads to fix our perception problem. And this sounds totally normal. It's the kind of thing that happens in marketing departments all over the world, every single day.
And here's the kicker. All of it is wrong. The insights, the recommendations, the entire diagnosis. It's all based on a massive misunderstanding of how people actually buy stuff, because it completely ignores a scientific law of marketing. And that brings us to a pattern that's so consistent across categories, countries, decades, that it's actually been given a name. You can think of it as marketing's version of the law of gravity. And trust me, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's called the double jeopardy law. And what it says is that smaller brands get hit twice. First, and this is the big one, they have way fewer buyers. And second, those buyers are just a tiny bit less loyal, meaning they buy the brand a little less often. The huge takeaway here is that a brand's loyalty metrics are almost perfectly predictable just based on its market share, how popular it is, not on some special magical brand strength.
Let's look at the evidence. Here's data for washing powders in the UK. Persil, the leader, has 41% penetration, meaning 41% of households in the category bought it at least once. That is more than double the penetration of Surf. But now, look at purchase frequency, the loyalty. It's almost identical. Persil buyers get it 3.9 times a year, Surf buyers 3.4 times. There's no giant loyalty gap here. And it's not a fluke. We see the exact same pattern in a completely different category, UK shampoos. Head & Shoulders has more than 5 times the number of buyers as L'Oreal Avive, but the loyalty difference? It's minuscule. 1.9 purchases a year versus 1.6. The real difference is simply how many people buy the brand to begin with.
And just in case you're thinking, well, maybe that's just a UK thing, let's hop over to US shampoos. Same exact story. Suave Naturals has nearly 10 times the buyers of Finesse, yet the purchase frequency barely budges. The single biggest difference between big brands and small brands is always the number of people who buy them.
So if chasing after these super loyal customers is basically a fool's errand, where does real sustainable growth actually come from? Well, the data is shockingly clear on this. So where's the proof? Researchers Les Binet and Peter Field dug into 880 campaigns from the UK's super prestigious IPA Effectiveness Awards. These are all campaigns celebrated for getting real business results. And they sorted them by a simple question. Was the goal to increase loyalty or to get new customers? In other words, to grow penetration. The results are just wow. Campaigns that aimed to increase penetration were more than 10 times as likely to win a gold award for effectiveness as the campaigns that targeted loyalty. Growing your brand isn't about getting your existing customers to buy more. It's about getting more customers, period.
This evidence leads us right to the demolition of another sacred cow of marketing, the one that fuels pretty much every loyalty program on Earth. The idea that retaining customers is way cheaper and more profitable than finding new ones. Oh yeah, you've definitely heard this one. It's been quoted in boardrooms for 30 years. It's the core logic behind almost every single loyalty program out there. The only problem? It's pure fantasy. It's based on a simple thought experiment, not any real-world data.
So here's why it's so misleading. First, that 5% improvement actually means cutting your customer defection rate in half, like from 10% down to 5%. Second, the math just assumes this massive improvement comes at zero cost. And third, and this is the most important one, it assumes that having your customer defection rate is even possible. This right here is why the promise of most loyalty schemes just falls apart under any kind of real scrutiny.
So, is it possible? Let's check the real world. This table shows customer defection rates for car brands in the UK. Every single brand, from the leader Ford all the way down to Honda, loses about half its customers when they go to buy a new car. Ford has the lowest defection rate, exactly like Double Jeopardy would predict, but it's not even close to cutting it in half. Radically changing your defection rate is just a pipe dream. So, when you put all this evidence together, the flawed toothpaste case study, the Double Jeopardy law, all that campaign data, it points to a completely new scientific way of looking at how marketing actually works. Okay, this is probably the most important shift in thinking you can make. The old view of targeting a small core of brand loyals is just wrong. Real growth comes from reaching the largest possible number of buyers. And guess what? Most of them will be light, infrequent purchasers. So instead of using a loyalty program to just reward your heaviest buyers for stuff they were going to buy anyway, you need to reach everyone else. And this totally changes the job of advertising. Its main goal isn't to persuade people that your brand is somehow better. It's to build and refresh memory structures, making your brand easy to think of and easy to find when it's time to buy. It's all about being mentally and physically available to as many people as possible. Look, at the end of the day, growth comes from popularity. Popularity comes from having more buyers. And you get more buyers by reaching all the potential customers in your category, not by obsessing over a tiny fraction of them. So the real question isn't how do we increase loyalty? The real question is how do we make it easier for more people to buy us just one more time?